everybody, welcome to Quarantine Storytime, day 460. We're going to be doing chapter 8 of Curse of the Mud Spirit today, and tomorrow are our last few chapters. We're going to do chapters 9 and 10 tomorrow, and then we'll be all done. Chapter 8. After a full belly and good conversation, where the kitten didn't say anything, and Annie told him all about his plans for the garden, they accompanied each other down to the basement, where Andy put on his galoshes and started scooping mud out of the double doors by the bucket load. The kitten sat on the stairs on the other side of the room, quietly whispering to Thomas, where Andy could not hear them. "Do you want to do it now?" asked the mud spirit. "No, Tammy left, and I want her to be here when it happens, so I can reveal myself to her," stated the kitten, but both of them had an odd feeling troubling them at the thought. After a few hours and more than 100 pails of mud out of the cellar doors, Andy could tell no difference. He retreated to the house and was not seen for the rest of the night. He invited the kitten to sleep in his bed, but politely declining, Philip chose not to follow. This was okay with Andy. He was not a prison guard. The kitten could do what he wanted. In the meantime, our two heroes devised a plan that seemed foolproof. After Andy was surely asleep, the kitten went back upstairs and found the cordless phone in the living room where Tammy had left it earlier. With all of his strength, he grabbed the end of the antenna with his front teeth, closed his eyes, and pulled. At first, all that happened was that the antenna stretched to its full length, with all of its segments extended. The kitten continued pulling until he dragged the phone all the way into the basement, down the stairs, and to the very last mud-free step. "Now, all we have to do is wait for the phone to ring," he said, puffing and out of breath. It was a hard job being a small kitten up to no good. "Kitten, you didn't really go to college with my mom, did you?" asked Thomas, just now making this connection. The kitten looked over at him with a heartbroken face. "No, Tom, I thought you knew that by now. I'm so sorry." "Good," he said with a little more spirit. "Good," he said with a little more spirit, "because my mom..." I don't know if you can hear me when that wind's blowing. "Good," he said with a little more spirit, "because my mom went to an all-girls college. That would have been weird." The two couldn't keep their laughter down at that, and giggled together until they were so tired there was only one thing to do. Around 3:30 a.m., Tammy stumbled home, and after running into a chair, she disappeared into the back of the house. The kitten and the mud spirit woke briefly to see this, and then cuddled back down into their slumber. The kitten was dreaming of having a friend who also loved to garden, who was sweet and nice, the way his Tammy used to be, or how he thought she used to be. Perhaps if he got her back, she would be that way again, after missing him for so long. The mud spirit dreamt of his mother, her hamburgers and her wonderful smile. He thought of how she provided for him alone, and was so supportive of most things he would do. She would miss him dreadfully, and with a stinging feeling where his heart used to be, he realized he missed her too, greatly. And even a life of adventure, one would need to take a break and go back to see the ones you love, as to not break your heart, at least to not break it all at once. At 7 a.m., the loud, intruding ring of the telephone woke our two heroes with a start. Maybe it was a bad idea to do this outside today. We'll see. At 7 a.m., the loud, intruding ring of the telephone woke our two heroes with a start. All the fur on the kitten's tail stood up, and his eyes opened wide. The mud spirit woke with less vigor, slowly moving his head and barely peeking over his eyelids. "Thomas, you've got to wake up. This is it. This is our chance," said the kitten excitedly. Tammy could be heard inside the house shouting, "Well, it seems to me that some animal doesn't like your stupid bird of paradise either. Phone!" Upon hearing Tammy's shrill voice, Thomas pulled his mud body to attention, and all of his thoughts concentrated on what was about to happen. Footsteps! Footsteps were coming towards the cellar door. "What if I have bad aim and I get your head by accident?" asked Thomas, nervously. "Don't worry. You can only be the mud spirit once," informed the kitten. The footsteps hurried as the phone was on its third ring. The feeling in the basement darkened as they both prepared themselves for the dirty task at hand. But the mud spirit read the kitten's mind, and he knew they agreed. This wasn't right. Much to their surprise, Tammy walked into their sight, shouting, "Did you take the phone into the cellar?" She rounded the doorway and turned on the light, and she sat down sloppily. But then she paused. She stared down at the kitten beside the cordless phone on the last step, seemingly floating in the vast sea of mud. On the fourth ring, she said, "Creepy," to herself. As she knelt to pick up the phone, it cut off in mid-ring. The person on the other line, though they would never know who it was that called at the perfect time, was impatient, making it easier for the series of events that were about to unfold to happen. The kitten stared at Tammy. Tammy stared at the kitten. Andy stepped into the doorway above, undoubtedly about to question who was on the phone at such an hour. "What are you looking at, cat?" Tammy said as she took the phone in her hand, ready to stand up and head back up the stairs. "A mean person with a black heart," said the kitten, all the while staring right into her tired eyes. Tammy's mouth dropped open, and she sat in silence for a moment, but finally came up with, "But how did you—" "Philip sends his regards," said the kitten, and then he thought, "Thomas, you know what to do." The mud spirit, whom because of his mind-reading ability was already prepared for the series of events, sprang into action. Until Tammy's head was entirely covered by the mud spirit's mouth, the kitten stared directly into her shock-filled eyes. As her body plopped down to the stairs and the mud spirit vanished into the muddy lake below, the kitten turned towards Andy and said, "Me and you, we have a lot to talk about." The end of chapter 8. We're going to read the last 2 chapters tomorrow, so you can finally see how it ends. Thanks, guys.